Hi, my name is Adrian and I'm here to demo you today my Porfolio project, which is about graphing COVID-19 data and time series data. So let's jump right into it. Hi again. So right now I want to demo my project, and what my project mainly does is that it handles time series data related to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as new cases over time, vaccinations, as well as the reproduction number. So right now we have our main menu, and let's analyze some data. Let's analyze all the North American countries. So Canada, USA, and Mexico. And yes, my application handles all sorts of inputs, such as the ISO, such as the three-letter country code, lowercase, all uppercase, etc. And right now, let's plot. In this case, let's use all of the data analysis options. So 1 through 3, all the way up to 7. And we should be seeing it on this tab over here. But firstly, let's see all of these data. So right now, this option 6 and 7, they report the maximum or the highest infectious days that occurred in the data set, and that was accomplished using np.max. And right now we have our dashboard that produces all of the plots, and right here we have like the reproduction number over time. I did add some this line, which is the threshold, and also it shows a variety of information. And one thing that I hard coded was this feature over here, this figure over here more specifically. It tells us all of the mean infections in each month, so we could identify. Well, maybe government officials can identify which months they struggle the most with. And in this case, it does seem like the holiday season, like with January and December. And I could imagine that, especially in Canada, when people are always in the inside and maybe visiting their family and friends. And I also want to showcase how my program handles like invalid input. So in this case, I wanted comma separated values, but what happens if someone does this? See, right here, it says, please select a valid menu option, choose either. And let's go back to the country selection. If we do, for example, if we do some unknown country, like Tobbed, it seems that an unrecognized entry ISO code was inputted, if you like to see. And if the user doesn't know all the countries, you could even ask all the available country ISO codes or the country names. Right here. Now in this section, I kind of want to go over some functions that I use, but were not necessarily covered in class. And if you look at one of my functions right here, which is the get region data, what's interesting is that if you look at the data sets right over here, the date of each entry is actually a string. So like, how do you deal with that? And in this case, I converted that column into a NumPy array, and I converted it using this thing called a datetime64D object. And much like how an integer is like a data type, this is like NumPy's own data type for like dates. And that's why I was able to make these nice plots over here without sorting through all of these dates. And in addition to that, I used something called a NumPy structured array. I had some troubles figuring out how to make it into a 2D NumPy array, so this was sort of my workaround. But what it does is that it creates like I created an empty plotting data list over here, plotting array over here. Then I specified that one column is the reporting period, which is like the dates of each entry, and the other is like the value, which is like the new infections or like the vaccinations over time. Here I also want to go over how I created that months infection bar chart, and over here was a bit interesting, like for here to calculate the mean infections over each month, I actually had to convert it back to a toList object. Then for each entry date, I had to actually convert it back to this numpy.datetime. And this entire, I have to say, a bit like a verbose line over here. What this does is essentially converts the entry date over here into the amount of months from a reference date. For example, here in January 1970. And then after that, it converts it into an integer, and then we divide it by 12 to get the month number. And as you can see, I did that for every single month. This for loop does that for every single month. Then we convert it back to a NumPy array, and then we do calculate that mean. And then finally, we put that in a bar chart. Anyways, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed my video and project.